It was supposed to be quite a nice post-COVID growth at around more than 5% for the world economy. This type of growth wasn't seen in the past 50 years. But now it seems that recovery was very short-term and we're heading into much darker waters.
Hello, this is the Weekly Tradecast, a new podcast brought to you by UNCTAD, the UN's trade and development body. I'm Sarah Toms. We're exploring how major events are shaping trade and development and how that affects billions of people around the world. This week, we're looking at recessions of the past and possibly the present. Rising fuel prices, higher mortgage rates, and volatile financial markets. It's starting to look a lot like 2007, the start of a massive and global financial crisis. The Great Recession, as it's known, led to millions of people losing their homes, jobs, and savings. It was the worst downturn since the Great Depression of the 1930s. Predictions of impending financial doom are widespread right now, but is history really repeating itself? Well, to find out more, we're joined by Anastasia Nesvetailova, head of UNCTAD's Macroeconomic and Development Policies branch. Born in Belarus, Anastasia was a professor of international political economy at City University of London before joining UNCTAD last year. She's written 3 books on financial crises and is an avid fan of classical ballet, working on her pirouettes in her spare time. Well, thank you for joining us right now, Anastasia.
Thanks, Sarah.
So firstly, are we heading for a recession?
Recession is a technical term. It's different to depression. Depression is a very protracted, long period of economic slowdown, contraction, deflation that is very dangerous for a very indebted economy because deflation makes debts more expensive, more difficult to pay. So that's really the very dark scenario, and that's what everybody was afraid of in 2008. Recession is a repeated period of economic contraction. You can say negative growth, fully realized with corporate bankruptcies, financial closures, people losing their jobs. Not all of this is happening at the moment, although there are some worrying signs, and not all of these negative economic or financial developments are happening uniformly across the world economy. So some countries are more affected, much more painfully affected than others.
What would you say are the similarities between the volatility we've been seeing this year and the global recession of 2007-2008? And also, don't forget, the Great Depression in the 1930s.
And thank you for the difficult question. So all 3 crises came at the end of a preceding boom. To put it simply, when crisis hit, it was very difficult to understand the nature of the shock. In the US, you had the period of the roaring 1920s. New American corporations, the novo-rich, new money, new ways of luxury consumption. It appeared that the country was booming. There was no cloud on the horizon. And then on one Tuesday, Wall Street crashed. It was 1929. The economy was supposed and was widely believed to be able to restore itself, but it didn't. Improve the economy only made it worse, and it made it worse also globally. The 2007 crisis came after almost 2 decades of the new economic thinking also, of the new boom, of great moderation. We, at that time, had been living under a very happy combination of low unemployment and low inflation that, according to most economic theories at the time, cannot even coincide together. It was a miracle. This miracle was mostly financed by very cheap credit and debt that was given to consumers. And then 2007 hit, and this miracle proved to be incredibly illusionary. But we're still at the end of this decade of, let's say, 2010 onwards, which was supposed to be the nice post-crisis recovery. Only it was interrupted in 2020 by the economic paralysis of the pandemic. That short recovery that we forecast last year in 2021, it was supposed to be quite a nice post-COVID growth at around more than 5% for the world economy. Again, it was a miracle. This type of growth wasn't seen in the past 50 years of world economic history. But now it seems that that recovery was very short term, and we're heading into much darker waters and potentially new type of crises.
Is it time for a rethink? Do we need to change the financial system?
Can I answer this question with the thought of the person who did most of the thinking? Hyman Minsky is probably the most important economist of the 21st century. Why? Because Minsky was very keen on economic and financial history. And his main question for his work was, can Great Depression happen again? His quite depressing conclusion was that, yes, Great Depression is possible, but compared to that period of pre-war, very dark history economically, we now have very developed understanding and use of big state in the sense of fiscal policy and a big bank in the sense of central bank intervention as two tools, two weapons, two institutions that can help us avoid a repetition of the Great Depression. Lesson that he left us is when the state realizes that these two big institutions, the big bank and the big government, have to step in to save the economy from a Great Depression. So that Minsky moment did not happen in the 1930s at all. It happened only halfway in 2007. So central banks came to the rescue with huge monetary injections and they saved the financial system, whereas the real economy was hit with austerity. So citizens were told to pay for the financial or private mistakes of the markets by tightening their belts. And that can pose us with a challenge. The powers that rescued the advanced economies back in 2007, those were emerging markets that were very rich with cash at the time. These emerging markets now are themselves facing financial and economic difficulties, and they don't have huge amounts of disposable cash simply to throw into the markets. That is the difficulty. We do have the intellectual capacity, we do have some institutional platform to implement these ideas, but we need far more effective material and financial resources, and we need the political will.
That's always the difficult part. Well, thank you, Anastasia. Anastasia Nesvetailova from UNCTAD, who was this week's guest. Tune in to the Weekly Tradecast next week and every week for more insights on the most pressing issues around the world of trade and development. There's even more on our website, unctad.org. I'm Sarah Toms in Geneva. Goodbye for now.